Hello, I'm Rex Basterfield and I'd like to welcome you to a video about my Quilcom SIM-BANDURA. Now I confess I knew nothing of this instrument until it was suggested I have a go at simulating one. It turns out that the bandura is considered to be the national instrument of Ukraine. The history of the instrument started hundreds of years ago, and it's evolved from being a very simple lute with a few strings to the instrument that we see today. I've provided a lot of information in the background info folder, and what was especially interesting to me was the history of persecution of players and manufacturers by Russia. So I'll quickly talk about the instrument, the modern instrument, which is said to be in the KF style. So these are the bass strings, and there's an octave of them, and they are tuned chromatically, and they consist of overwound strings. The single treble strings add another typically 3.5 octaves to the sound, and they too feature chromatic intervals. Now I have to say that the specifications do vary, so what I've done is chosen what seems to be the most typical. So I've deliberately kept the instrument very focused and hopefully easy to operate and understand. The bass strings, being overwound, have a different timbre to the treble strings, so what I've provided is two synthesizers, one for the bass strings and one for the treble strings. Both synthesizers feature morphing of waveforms, but different waveforms between the bass strings and the treble strings. So those are the six tables of waveforms, and as you can hear there are subtle differences between them, but also, apart from the harmonic balance being slightly different, the phases of the harmonics are different. So if you wish to make multiple instances, make a piece of music with several of these banduras, you can use different tables to separate the sounds a little bit better. And that in fact is what I did for the introduction music. There were 4 instances with different tables and different soundbox settings to differentiate the 4 instances. Now the synth controls on the bass strings and treble strings are very simple. You can adjust the response to velocity and the decay time, and the decay time is usually longer on the bass strings than the treble strings. The damp button, as you can imagine, dampens the string, and one thing I noticed when I was watching video performances is that sometimes a player will damp the treble strings with the right hand flank of their hand, and that, if you turn that on, you'll get this sort of sound. Obviously the bass strings weren't damped there, and you can automate that. Now if you have a MIDI sustain pedal and you turn it on here, when you press the pedal it will actually damp the strings. So I'll operate the pedal now. Now without a soundbox you would hardly hear the strings, so the soundbox is a very important part of this type of instrument. And I've included my soundbox processor, which I've used on other sims. This simulates the peaks and troughs in the spectrum that you would get from all sorts of soundboxes. So it's a generic processor. You can change the effective size of the soundbox, the resonances, peaks and troughs that it produces, and the amount of that coloration that's added to the dry signal. I've also provided an EQ which comes after the soundbox sound before the built-in reverb, so you can alter the bass and treble amounts and the changeover point of the shelving filters. As always, I've provided my favourite reverb made by Martin Vacharnik, and there's also a recorder so you can record individual samples should you wish to. So there you go, that's a synthesizer version of a Bandura, my SIM-BANDURA. I hope you have a little bit of joy playing with it, a bit of fun with it, and until the next time, bye!